me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
This is a practical sharing of best practices and really making sure that you're kind of putting yourself into a good mindset and a critical mindset for you to be better. Not only you as a professional, but you as the leader of that agency, so that your agency can grow as well. Certainly, my connection with my community has changed. More leadership within my agencies, but that's something that I still hold on to pretty tightly to try and keep as my compass as I'm doing my work.
It does give you, at some point, I think if you're just looking to make a larger and larger impact, once you kind of catch that bug of doing good for others, if there's how can I scale it? How can I impact more people? And so the leadership role seems like a natural fit for someone that wants to amplify their impact on their community. All right. We are live again with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I'm Craig LeBlanc, your host, the doorman. And I have special guest, Pat O'Mara with City of Las Vegas, Nevada. Special guest. And I really think he has a very strong message that needs to be, I think, uplifted. He really centers himself as a public servant, and he does this by getting the input of his community and all the different ways that he does this and why it's important to get them from a buy-in standpoint and so many other things. So welcome to the show, Pat. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So maybe we can start by just telling us a little bit about how you got into Parks and Rec, and maybe we can kind of weave that into this whole public servant part of how you lead in Parks and Rec and really being in touch with your community.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the seventh of 9 kids. All of us at one time were swimmers. All of us at one time or another were lifeguarding at our local municipal pool system. And that's kind of just what was expected. Once you turn 16, you were a lifeguard during the rest of high school summers and things like that. And so I kind of fell into it, I guess you might say, from kind of just following what my 6 older brothers and sisters had done. But it was really through that process that I really started understanding what Parks and Rec could be, what the connections we create are, and the relationships we get to build doing what we get to do. And I say we get to do, not we have to do, because it really is a privilege to get to do what we do. So all the way through high school and college, I was lifeguarding. I became the shift supervisor, became like a summer pool manager at some of the facilities, and kind of just kept growing. Through college, I actually worked year round, which was probably the most impacting on me, because I was working various shifts, and those who have been in aquatics know that there are some times when you'll have lap swimming, and sometimes when you'll have swim teams come out, and then you have the therapy or the aquatic aerobics or those kinds of things. And I don't really know what it was, but it was just that connection with that water aerobics group that just sold me on who we get to be in this industry and creating those relationships. Sometimes we were the only interaction outside of the home that some of these senior citizens may have had. They looked for, like, that was their outing. They may hit this grocery store, on the way home or something like that, but we were oftentimes some of their connection to other people, some of their socializing. They would come in, and you didn't often see a whole lot of exercising, not high impact, not high mobility, but it was all a lot of it was socializing and just making sure that the body was moving and you know, going through the motions to keep them limber and to keep them active and healthy and those kinds of things. And I think that was really where I kind of fell in love with our industry and realized that it was kind of a calling to interact with people that way. I'm naturally an introvert, and so being able to actually form relationships is something that that I value, because you know, we're able to go a little bit deeper with those people that we get to see day and day after, you know, day after day. And so I really fell in love with it there and kind of felt the calling there. I was in a position where I was working to go to school, but of course, those who have been through college know that every year college gets more expensive. And so I was working more to go to school. And so kind of my balances were a little bit off on that. And it took me a little bit longer to get through school because I had to work my way through. And I had the opportunity in 2003. I was getting married, and I had the opportunity to go full time even before I had finished my degree, and I jumped on that, went full time. And then through my career, I've been fortunate enough to do more than just aquatics. It branched out into other things. Certainly those who have had experience with the aquatics sections know that it's more than just, you know, watching the pool. It's facilities management. It's youth services because you're running swim lessons for little kids. It's senior services because you have those interactions with the older users. You know, it becomes a lot more as you get more involved, and that I think has served me well in being able to bridge out and do things like running after school programs and camps and other facilities, community centers, and things like that. And
can you talk about more? Can you talk about more how, you know, I love how you say it's not that you have to do these things, but you get to do these two frameworks. I mean, either way, there's a task to be done, but to frame it in such a way that you feel like it's imposed upon you and it begrudgingly have to do it because it's your job, versus it's a privilege to be able to serve and to help people and to be the best part of their day. Well, first of all, when did you figure that out in life? Was that a childhood thing? And then how does that impact your day-to-day operating from two different frameworks like that?
I think I really came to the realization of this is a get to do thing after the Great Recession. Like a lot of people in our industry, I was affected by the Great Recession. My position was eliminated at the municipality I had been at the time. You know, not anything I did, not anything that my supervisors did, any of that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'd been working there for 4 or 5, maybe 6 years, something like that. Really enjoying it. I had 2 kids. I felt like this was you know, the place to be. I could see myself, you know, retiring from it and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, within the span of, you know, a couple of months, it was like, you know, we don't have a position for you anymore. And you know, I went through a lot of the stages of grief, trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was fortunate that I had a friend who, you know, saw more in me than I think I saw in myself at the time. And he was like, "Hey, I need you to come on with my company and help me do this." And I was like, you know, I'm like, dude, I'm a lifeguard. Like I've never been in that industry before. And he's like, "Trust me, you can handle it. I know who you are. I know what you're about," and all that kind of stuff. And while I loved getting to do what I did with him, I always kind of still felt that I missed Parks and Recreation. And so when I had the opportunity, you know, I was laid off in 2011. That's when my position was finally eliminated. And then I kind of stayed engaged a little bit. So I did some 3/4 time work while I was working for my buddy. in the jewelry industry of all things. So not even anywhere close to each other.
Yeah.
But I did that for about 9 months or so, where I was 3/4 time still with the city, and then working at the jewelry store. And then I went contract, and I taught lifeguarding classes, and I taught WSI classes and CPR classes and things like that, just to stay engaged. I did that for a few years while I was at the jewelry store, and then I actually had the opportunity to come back into the Parks and Rec industry in 2015. And that I think was when I really recognized that it was I get to, not an I have to.
Right.
Because I just realized how special our positions are. We have those connections with the community. We get to build out programs that help people with their health and fitness. We get to help with their socialization, all those kinds of things. And so that's really, I think, where the light bulb went on for me, that it was, that calling, and that it was that I get to, and not that I have to. Certainly my connection with my community has changed as I've, changed my position and gotten into other, more leadership within my agencies. But that's something that I still hold on to pretty tightly to try and keep as my compass as I'm doing my work.
Yeah, well, it does give you, at some point, I think if you're just looking to make a larger and larger impact, once you kind of catch that bug of doing good for others, if there's how can I scale it? How can I impact more
Yeah.
people? And so the leadership role seems like a natural fit for someone that wants to amplify their impact on their community. And so, we certainly appreciate you leading such a big organization. And I'd also like to talk about, your role as deputy director and what that looks like in helping your director out.
Sure.
But I'd like you to touch on that point where you said people look forward to working with Parks and Rec people. It's one of the few departments where, you're not calling the police because there's a problem, fire department because there's a problem. You're going, maybe pull a permit, working with utilities, but it's almost like y'all are most of the time people are coming to spend time with families, have a good time, meet friends. It's a good occasion. Talk
Exactly
about
right.
what that's like.
Yeah. So years ago, I was in an HR training, and they were like, yeah, you get to be the fun people. And there's certainly an element of that, but there's a lot more to it, right? And she made the comment that, people actually look forward to interacting with you. And that really struck with me. It's really stuck with me since then, because as you mentioned, there are a lot of different things that we as a municipality, or as the county, or, even a special district, there are a lot of things that we could have our hands in. And being in Parks and Recreation, we're the ones that people actually search out what we do. They actually, we'll set a calendar appointment. I got to go and register my kid for camp. I have to go get my tickets for this, youth production, all those kinds of things. Whether it's, summer concert series, or, like I said, camp, before and after school programs, swim lessons, whatever it is, they're generally looking forward to the things that we can provide to them. And, even renting a pavilion for, a kid's birthday. I have two daughters. They're getting on to adult age. But when they were little, there were plenty of times, especially when things were a little bit tighter, in our personal budgets, that we would rent a pavilion at a park and string up the, piñata, and we would play at the play structures and things like that, and bring everybody together. So we get to be that for people. Nobody wants to interact with the police, because that means something's either happened to you, or you've done something wrong, right? Nobody wants to to interact with, building and codes and things like that, because there's just, in order, and it's important, don't get me wrong, they all serve their purpose, they're all very important, but nobody wants to go pull a building permit, right? There's so much red tape, and it's all based on the safety and making sure that things are done properly, but it can be a headache, right? Nobody wants to do all that. But they actually want to interact with us, and it's an incredible privilege to be in that space within the municipality, for sure.
Yeah, that really is a special place to be. And I never thought about it till you framed it in that way, that you really kind of have a privileged place in people's lives. They're coming to you more for celebration, health and well-being.
Yeah. I mean, who wants to call the sewer department?
Right.
That's never a good call to make,
Yeah, this is a disaster that you're calling about.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about, so how do you stay in touch with your community? How do you get their feedback? First of all, why is that important? And then we'll go into start with the why, and then.
Sure. Well, for sure, the why is we exist for them, right? We exist to provide the programs, the services, the facilities for them to have the quality of life that they deserve in their community. And so that's why we are here. And so we need to be listening to our community, and it can happen in a lot of different ways. Certainly there's the old standby of a community meeting. Any of us who have ever watched the show Parks and Rec know, I am convinced they did research by going to those meetings, and they wrote that stuff into their show, because I've seen so many of those things happen where people will come up and talk about all the different things under the sun during those meetings. But you can have those, and they can certainly be very productive. I remember a handful of years ago, when I was the director in Lakeland, Tennessee, we had our master plan rewritten. I was about 10 years old at the time. And so we had it redone, and we had several community meetings where, the community would come out and we would show them different areas of town. And, we had gotten word that the community really wanted a community center. We had a senior center, we had some rentable facilities, but we didn't have a community center that had multiple rooms, that maybe had a prep kitchen to host, events, meetings, fitness classes, things like that. We were making do with what we had, but we didn't have, what you would consider the standard rec center, right? So we threw out maps of town, like where do we want to see this? What other amenities do we want to be looking at? Are there features that we don't yet have within town that you want us to bring in? And so we had boards for them to go provide feedback. If we're going to do a community center, what do you want in it? Do you want fitness rooms? Do you want indoor turf area? Do you want a gym? Do you want a pool? Do you want meeting rooms? All the different things that could possibly go in there. There was a board graded out. People would go and mark there. So you could have those, and they certainly fulfill a need within the community. But working with the community can be so much more nowadays, right? If you have social media, you can post out all the programs that you have coming up, and then actually have somebody read the comments if you're going to open up for comments.
Sure.
Right. I notice you're always putting out something about aquatics. When are we going to get something about martial arts? When are we going to get something about this? And it's an opportunity for us to engage and say, actually, we posted about this one a little while ago. Here's the link, and direct them to, maybe whatever it happens to be, martial arts or pickleball classes or whatever it is. So social media can be that for you if your agency is set up like that. um, you know, doing a community poll. We do that with naming an amenity or naming a park. We have a dog park that will come online in this next year. Brand new property. It's a vacant land right now that the city acquired, and we're going to put it's just a neighborhood dog park on it. So we did community responses to get input from the community on what should we call this dog park. So we did that, and we actually had people from all over the country put in responses. And we have a pickleball expansion happening at one of our parks. We had 4 courts. We're going to add another 4 here. We're going to open that up in May. I'm actually doing I'm actually kind of synthesizing the reports back from that on, what do people want to call that amenity? The so-and-so memorial pickleball courts, or the, Happy Paddles pickleball courts at this park, those kinds of things that come in. We work with our wards. They send out the survey to their constituents. We generally will post a banner with a QR code, all those different things, just to get them involved, just to get their feedback, so that they have ownership in that process. And I actually had, she was the vice mayor over in Tennessee, and she said, for every program that you ask about, that you survey at the end, let's do a standard set of questions. What did you like most? What can we improve upon? And what other programs would you like to see? And so we'll certainly ask more questions than that, some pointed questions about maybe how the instructor organized their class or all those types of things. But on all those surveys, we're asking those 3 things so that we know where we're finding success, what we need to do better, and then where are we not meeting a need. And I've tried to be implementing that on every survey. Now, most agencies, I would say, probably have some sort of electronic registration system nowadays, and we're utilizing one right now that has an automatic survey feature. So at the end, maybe within a week or so from the last session, we'll have a survey response that asks those questions.
Now, talk about the difference between working. I'm assuming that this is the largest park system you've worked for.
Sure. Yep.
So what's the difference between working and getting community feedback in a smaller agency and then something as large as Las Vegas?
Well, you're going to get it. The people who are certainly passionate about things, they'll get you the information that they want you to have, right? They will search you out. They will send you a message and say, hey, we're interested in having more pickleball, or we're interested in having more aerobics classes, or more pool space, or whatever it happens to be. If they're interested in something, they will share that with you. There are certainly differences. So Las Vegas is 23rd, maybe 24th largest municipality in the country.
Right.
680-ish thousand people. So decent size, right? Certainly the largest one I've been involved with. I had about maybe 350,000, 400,000 when I was working for the county up in the north side of the state. A little less than that when I was working for the city of Reno. About the same while I was working for city of Memphis. It's a little bit smaller community. But then, as the director of a community that was about 15,000 people. So it's very different. And I think it's really just about how you approach it, right? You want to be proactive in sending out information, help me know what you need as the community, right? And so we're doing that through things like these polls and these surveys. We're trying to, before I got here, the master plan had been done, and we did community input through the master plan to know, here are some deserts in Parks and Rec, Parks and Rec services, or we're not quite as built out with parks to serve these areas, things like that. And but so you want to make sure that you're sending out the notice that, hey, I'm receptive to hearing from you. I want to hear from you. Now, there are going to be limits to that, but I want to hear what programs you want. When we're doing a renovation, what kind of features do you want in a park? Those kinds of things. Certainly at a smaller agency, there's nowhere to hide either, right? And in a larger agency, sometimes you can, you can collect that information and, just file it away, respond and say thank you, those kinds of things. But in a small agency, when you collect that information and you respond and say, yeah, we're going to take this into advisement, you're going to see that person at Costco.
Yeah.
You're going to see that person at Kroger, right? And they're going to say, hey, how are we doing on this? Whereas there's a certain level of anonymity that I'm afforded to hear, that I can go about my day and not have somebody approach me and say, hey, I sent you that email, when are we going to start this program? Those kinds of things. They both have their pluses and minuses. But it really is, if you're going into it with the goal of serving the community, they're all worth it. They're all worthy.
Yeah, so maybe we'll take this time for you to kind of give a little testimony, just about working in Parks and Rec. We have a growing number of high school, college kids that are kind of exposed to our content. And maybe I'll start off by playing a little, I guess, commercial for the industry.
Sure,
that our video content creators made. If you're a Parks and Rec director and you have, or actually anybody in Parks and Rec, and you're finding yourself in front of maybe an orientation for high school juniors is the actual target market, because they're the ones getting ready to choose what college they're going to, what degree they're going to pursue, who has the best programs. And unfortunately, a lot of kids never see Parks and Recreation as even an option. It's not something that many of us discover till later in life. And so I think we have a duty as an industry to just get the word out, and maybe give a testimony. And so you can go into our YouTube channel under the playlist. There's careers. I think there's 4 or 5 videos there. If you'd like to play this in front of high school kids during their orientation for swimming, summer camp, whatever, and then maybe plant a seed and give that as an opportunity to maybe give testimony of what it's like to work in Parks and Rec. So I'll play this, and then me and Pat will come and just chat about that.
Cool.
Let's hold on. I got to pull up. Let's do Hannah's. Okay, here we go.
Hi there. Have you ever stopped to think about the magic of parks? The laughter of kids on a swing, the joy of family picnics, or even the peaceful moments on a hiking trail? What if you could be the one creating those moments? Imagine a career where you get to design vibrant spaces, host exciting events, and protect the beauty of nature for everyone to enjoy. Parks and Recreation isn't just a job, it's a chance to leave your mark on the world and create memories that last a lifetime. Did you know that colleges across the U.S. offer amazing degrees to help you launch a career in Parks and Recreation? From urban planning to environmental conservation, these programs equip you to make a real impact in your community. Parks and Recreation professionals across America are building legacies and transforming lives. Now it's your turn. Want to know more? Head to our YouTube channel, The Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we share stories, advice, and inspiration from those shaping our parks and communities. Don't miss out. Follow us, subscribe, and join the movement.
All right, so imagine you're in front of a pile of high school kids getting ready to work for you for the rest of the summer. You play that video. What's your message to them?
My message to them is, that Parks and Rec a lot of us grew up as Parks and Rec kids, right? And for some of us, it's a little bit of a paying it forward kind of mentality that we get into. The unfortunate thing, and your your guys' video kind of addresses this, is that there are not as many Parks and Rec degrees and degree programs as there used to be. I know a handful of years before I graduated from high school, University of Nevada up in Reno, which is where I went, they got rid of their program. UNLV down here in Las Vegas, kind of shut down their program and kind of rolled it into their hospitality management program. So it doesn't exist down here either. And, even though there are certainly great programs across the country, I have friends who have been fortunate enough to attend some of those, gotten their undergrad in, recreation management or leisure services or, something along those lines. I've even hired some people like that, which is certainly amazing. They have a really good base from which to grow off of. But Parks and Rec is more than just the person running the facility. It's more than just the person who, creates the design standards or creates the, operation standards for the, parks maintenance side. It's more than that. There's a whole lot to what we do. The people with their offices, on the other side of this wall, they're in the financial side of things. But Parks and Rec creates this culture that, even though, they have their degrees in accounting and finance and things like that, there's room for all of us. And, we need people with diverse backgrounds, diverse training, diverse education to do what we do, because, we have our budget is tens of millions of dollars. When you take into consideration capital projects and things like that, we're in the $65-70 million range year to year and those kinds of things. I have my MBA, and I am not that's still a lot of accounting and finance to worry about. And so we have a specific team that helps us make sure that we're meeting our goals, that we're doing our best, that we're meeting our budget, all those kinds of things. So it doesn't even have to be those who are in Parks and Rec on the programming side, right? My degree is not in Parks and Rec. I have training in Parks and Rec, but I have business degrees.
All right.
But it's about experience. It's about relationship. It's about, it's about community and culture, and really just doing our best for our citizens. And, I have staff that have, like I said, we have financial degrees, we have business degrees, we have degrees in art, we have degrees in, in recreation and leisure management. We have people without degrees, who, and we all come together because we all see the same, mission to serve our community. We certainly want people who, take that extra step and find that program that's out there and get that really great base level of education and training. But you don't have to be you don't have to go to that school. You don't have to get that degree to make an impact. And that's, that would be my message. If you want to have an impact on the community, if you want to build relationships and try and advocate for, a culture of service to the community, we want you here.
Yeah.
And there are ways for us to get you that other information you may miss by doing something else.
Yeah, and I love that message that it's not just Parks and Rec educated people with a Parks and Rec background, that kind of stuff. That this is a huge ship. It is a multi tens and hundreds of millions of dollars of budgets. It is, in many cases, $500 million and billions of dollars worth of assets under management. And the purpose of all this momentum, of all these properties, of all this manpower, is to serve the community. So if you want to work for an industry that is focused on community service, making a difference, making an impact, with a huge backing of buildings and people and programs, like, this is the place to be. And y'all need everything. You need every type of skill you can possibly find, from maintenance and cutting grass and coaches and swimming and budgeting and accounting and marketing. I mean, you need all of it. So it's just, what industry do you want to work for? And what does that industry accomplish at the end of the day? And so I love that the industry is really just accomplishing the betterment of the community from cradle to grave. And I think that's going to leave you fulfilled at the end of the day, beyond just the paycheck, beyond the benefits. So great industry to represent. Okay, so let's kind of move on. I wanted to talk a little bit about director school. I've got a lot of people in director school that have come on the program, and I'm actually invited to do this podcast as the next few director schools, so I can have a deeper understanding about it. But what can you tell us about what director school is? Who gets invited? What's the benefit of it?
Sure. So director school, let me kind of back up a little bit. So NRPA, through a partnership with NC State, created the schools for our industry. So there's revenue development school, there's maintenance management school, supervisor management school, and I think there might be another one. And it was all about that extra level of professional development. So those of us who are already in the industry generally will have a state conference where it's professional development. We'll go for a couple of days, maybe 2 days, where we have sessions given by sometimes professional speakers, sometimes other professionals within our association who want to impart what they've learned to the next group, to maybe take a nugget or two from that session and mold it into something that would work in their agency, those kinds of things. So we have generally we have our state conferences. NRPA puts on a national conference. There are other professional development opportunities. If you're in youth athletics, there's some. If you're in aquatics, there are some, those kinds of things. But in general, there's a state association, there's the national association, and there's only so much you can do by digging into a specific topic for an hour-ish, right? And so you do get nourished by going to those sessions. You do, you find those nuggets, like I mentioned, that you can mold into something that will work for your agency, and hopefully you become a better professional. Your agency becomes a better agency because of these professional development opportunities. But there's so much more to it, and they've done a good job. I have colleagues who have been to some of those other schools, and then it's actually a 3, 4, 5 day in depth. We're going to take 2 hours and talk about this specific subject, and you can go really deep into statistical data or best practices of landscaping procedures or those kinds of things. Well, at some point in the administrative level and the executive level, there wasn't an opportunity really for some of that professional development to really come through. And so NRPA created director school, and I don't really know how long ago it was, but I know that it's been maybe 10, 15 years at least that this has been going on. And So when you get to go, it's a 2-year program, and you'll spend 2 or 2.5 hours on one subject with another industry professional who has seen success in that topic. We had some amazing faculty during the 2 sessions that I went to. Some of them were in the consulting area. Some of them were directors and deputy directors for multiple agencies and multiple, long tenured positions, those kinds of things. And so you're actually learning from people who are taking this and implementing it, right? And I don't mean this disparagingly or anything like that, but not somebody who's doing some research and sending it out in an academic setting, right? This is a practical, this is a practical sharing of best practices and really making sure that you're kind of putting yourself into a good mindset and a critical mindset for you to be better. Not only you as a professional, but you as the leader of that agency, so that your agency can grow as well. So we did things like, 2.5 hours on planning. Well, my degree's in business, and I'm not involved in community planning. I am now, because I actually understand that Parks and Rec is a big part of how you plan a successful community, and how you plan a community that actually, provides more to its constituents, in the way of socializing and healthcare and things like that. So it was an eye-opening opportunity for me to understand what my role in the bigger picture was. And so certainly there were things like that were good professional development opportunities and new information for me. And I've been able to implement a lot of that. Another, I think almost equally as important part of that is you're with these other executives, administrators from agencies across the country that become part of your network. I was fortunate enough that I actually went to director school with another deputy director in the Valley here in Las Vegas. She was in my class for both of those years. One of the other directors here in the Valley, because we have 3 municipalities, the county, and then unincorporated area in the Las Vegas Valley. One of the other directors was there for his year 2, while I was there for my year 1. And I got to know him pretty well through that. And then, the director at Memphis, who I had met while I was working there for a few weeks, really. He was there. And then I met all the other people from Texas and Pennsylvania and Ohio, and I might meet at a conference, but I'm in the same room with them for 4 days. We get to know who each other are, and we get to learn a little bit about each other and actually create some good bonds, some good friendships. And so when I have a concern, I have a good list of people that I'm like, hey, they're in a similar size agency. Let me reach out to them and see how they're doing this. And they do the same with me. They'll reach out and say, how are you handling this kind of a situation, and that type of stuff. And so it really does, not only does it provide that deeper level of professional development, but it also allows you to grow out your network a bit better, to where you have those resources when you're up against the wall, and you need to know, well, how has somebody else gone through this, or what would their best practices be, and you have somebody that you can trust to reach out to. So, and
how big are those class sizes? Who kind of gets accepted? How do you
if I'm remembering correctly, there's about 75 that get to come in for the first year.
Mhm.
And then obviously you have to pass the first year or complete the first year in order to apply for the second year. In general, most people will go 1 year after the other to finish their 2-year cycle. But there are people, who for one reason or another need to kind of delay and will come back for year 2 after maybe 2 years or 3 years or something. One of the directors from California that I met, she did hers in the late teens for her first year, and then I think she and her husband, had a child, and then COVID hit, and all the things just kind of were there, and then she went back and finished year 2, several years on, and that's not unusual. It's not it doesn't seem to be what most people do, but that's certainly accepted, and you know they're oftentimes just embraced by that group, right? And just because you didn't have that first year with somebody, we'll bring you in and that kind of stuff. So I would say there's about 150-ish, professionals at each director school between the year 1 and 2. So it's when you're talking about conferences and things like that, that's a very small group of people,
Right.
and you can actually make a lot of those connections because of it.
And are they hosted at the same location? Do they kind of rotate in different parts of the country? Is there 2 or 3 of these classes starting each year?
So I'm not sure what the future holds as far as its location. I went in the summer of 2023 for my first year. That was the last year of several in a row that had been just outside of Chicago. And then my second year, we went to Denver last spring, and that was a one and done. It was in, I believe, Cincinnati just a couple of weeks ago.
So it moves around a little bit then.
It has the last several years, but I think that they do. My belief is that their intention is to do a few years in a spot and then, have that kind of moving around a little bit. It had been in Wheeling, West Virginia at the National Training Center, where the other schools were for a number of years, but yeah, and they're constantly trying to make it better. Their faculty cycles in on, I think it's a 3 to 5 year cycle, and so it's always getting better. They're trying to always find ways to make it improve and all of those things. But like I said, I think that they're trying to do it where, they can keep it at a reasonable cost, but do it in the same place a few years in a row. Denver was just not, the facilities that were chosen were not worth staying for. Denver itself was great. We had a lot of cool socials and things like that, but the facilities that were chosen were not great, and so they decided to move it after that.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever ran into Jamie Sabak and throughout all this, but she came on the show, and me and her are going to do several episodes on it. I've met several of the teachers there, so we're trying to create good content on here so that maybe we can share some of that wisdom outside of the director school. Because I think, so far the people that teach at director school that I've spoken to or that have come on the show, I'm like, wow, we definitely need to get this message more out there.
Yeah. We had some amazing facilitators or teachers, whatever you want to call them, that were there. I actually only know Jamie by reputation, unfortunately, but I've seen, like Sevi you had on a number of weeks ago. He was one of the facilitators while I was there, and I'm always impressed when he gives a session and things like that. I think we were fortunate enough to have him teach at least 3 over those 2 years that he did, and he's so sharp. and personable, and he really, takes some time, and really all of them do, but it really takes time to get to know us as director school candidates. So
Yeah. Well, both him and Jamie have agreed to do somewhat of a 3 or 4-part in-depth series so that it
great.
doesn't, it's not too compressed where they really can't go into depth. I really want to give them the sufficient time to get their
Mhm.
super powerful messages out that they teach in these schools so that it's more available to those who maybe just can't pull away and go to director school.
Yeah.
They can get some exposure to it and maybe encourage them to go to director school by seeing that there. So I think she was I just looked it up. She was episode 77. So literally 10 episodes ago. And then Sevi was one, actually my first ones that came on the show. So he should be having another show, I think probably before the 100th episode.
Very
So
cool.
be looking out for that. Now what's the LEADS program?
So almost 10 years ago, the state of Nevada Society, Parks and Rec Society, NRPS, we recognized that our staff was really kind of hungry for kind of some leadership development and things like that within our area. And as I mentioned, our universities in the state had either consolidated their Parks and Rec programs into other degrees, or had gotten rid of them altogether. And so there was certainly a need for some formal development within the sphere of Parks and Recreation. And so some of our local professionals put together, it's called the LEAD program, and LEAD is a mnemonic. It's LEAD Institute. Leadership, Excellence, Alliance, and Development are the 4 pillars that's kind of developed on. And so every year at our state conference, we do a full day kind of acclimating them to what the LEAD program is, and then we give them essentially a work to do to create their professional portfolio within, like I said, the sphere of Parks and Recreation. And they go out and they'll watch a TED Talk and then write a paper about how they're going to implement that into their professional career within Parks and Recreation. They create and put on lunch and learns for the staff at their own agency, and then even in the Valley, where anybody can come to it and get that enrichment, get that professional development. And so there's several different things that they can do for each of those 4 pillars, and through the year they will participate in a handful of exercises and put together this portfolio with that work that they had done over the year. And then we do one session. Generally, it's in January, where executives from the different agencies will come together, and the teams get together as a unit, and will actually present a policy change recommendation. Mm-hmm. And we've had lots of different policy changes. I've been involved in 2 of these where I've provided feedback to the group, as an executive of the agencies. And there have been multiple things from, working in dealing with like the heat index, and how do you adjust your working time based on, what happens here. We had 100+ days of 100-degree weather or more last year. We set the record at 120 degrees, those kinds of things last summer. And so that's fresh on everybody's mind, and they put together a policy recommendation, and then they present that information to us as the executives. They've provided other things like, trying to find opportunities for us to give some sort of benefit to our part-timers, because those of us who have been in Parks and Recreation long enough know that we don't get done near as much, or even sometimes survive without our part-time staff. And so that program, they're doing the research, they're doing the presentations, they're doing all of that coursework that first year. And then the second year they go through and they actually mentor a new set of lead participants through the program the second year. And then if they choose to participate then that's when they graduate. And if they choose to participate in the third year, then they actually are involved with kind of running the overall program, and making adjustments. I went through the program in 2018, and even in that, I guess 5 or 6 years now, there have been some good changes, some improvements to the program, and that's what that third year is for, the mentoring committee. So it's been really great. It's part of that has helped us to kind of get recognized by the universities. We have a small group that is trying to work with our universities to get Parks and Recreation back in as a degree, even if we have to start at the associate level, but try and get it back into the communities, into the colleges, so that it's available to our students, when they're done with college and things like that. So I'm very happy with the way that the program came about, and all I did is participate in the program and then advocate for the program. I didn't have anything to do with any of that design or anything like that. A lot of that work was Angela Summers from City of Henderson, and Priscilla Smith, who recently retired from the City of Las Vegas. So
yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing all this with us.
Yeah.
I love your approach on how you're, leading your community, especially with that servant's heart. Lastly, as promised, I am trying to put more effort with this show into park maintenance. We're trying to do, we're ramping up to put together a whole 1-hour show before this show. So it would be 5 days a week. Instead of 12 Eastern, it would be start at 11 Eastern, and then this show would immediately follow. But is there anything you can say just about the importance of, it's typically nearly half the staff of every park system is just maintaining these facilities, keeping them from crumbling, and always breaking, having to fix them. Just talk about the Army. Maybe this can be some of that content leading up to when we launch the show. Can you say anything about facilities maintenance, park maintenance, any of that?
Sure. That is definitely, those are definitely the unsung heroes, right? I mean, those of us who, I obviously, as I mentioned and kind of alluded to, I came up through the programming side, was involved in the facilities management when I was running a community center or a pool or something like that. But, the guys who actually come in and do that, whether it's parks maintenance or facilities maintenance, those are the guys who are oftentimes the ones in the shadows, the ones behind the scenes, and certainly our unsung heroes. I oversee the recreation and the parks and grounds maintenance divisions for the City of Las Vegas. So about, I would say, between 60 and 75% of the staff are somewhere in my part of the org chart. And and parks and grounds maintenance is maybe not quite half, but certainly close to half of our overall staff, because we have 86 parks, and somebody has to be in one of those parks every single day, making sure that trash is pulled and the grass looks good and bathrooms are cleaned and all those kinds of things. And it is not a glamorous job, but a lot of these guys do it with an ownership heart, with a servant's heart. They come in and they bust their butts every day, just to try and create the spaces and places where we get to enjoy our lives. And I'm excited about that opportunity that you're going to be bringing forward to really kind of shine a light on these guys, what they do. It's certainly something that doesn't get a lot of attention. Like I said, it's not the most glamorous jobs, those kinds of things, but they're certainly necessary and certainly worth celebrating these guys. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually, it was a former director, but he came from the field maintenance, maintaining golf courses, and we literally just talked about what it means. It was Garrett James over outside of around Dallas, and man, the technical skill and know-how that these people have just on the field maintenance side, from the pesticides, the weeds, machine maintenance, all the different stuff that comes out, and they have to stay really on top of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my first exposure into it, realizing, okay, this is going to be a great segment just to have that 1 hour show. So then I'll hit you up on LinkedIn afterwards. If there's anybody in your department that you'd like to say, okay, I'd like to get this guy on the show because he's an expert in his arena, whether it's, even if it's a master electrician or a groundskeeper that's just been doing this for years, that can share wisdom and create good content for that community. I'd love to get your help on giving these guys a platform to share that wisdom on.
Yeah. I think, oftentimes these guys they'll come in, they'll do a great job, and then they'll go home and enjoy the rest of their day with their family and those kinds of things. And we don't give them enough, certainly we don't give them enough praise, but we also don't focus on them enough with things like with our professional development, state and local conferences, national conferences, those kinds of things. There are certainly pieces of it, but that I've been trying to advocate for more of that, certainly here at the state level. My park superintendent attended his first national conference with me last year in Atlanta. And he's been in the industry for 20-ish years.
Wow.
And so that's something that I think we should, kind of shine a little bit of light on as well. I mean, these guys need some professional development as well. There are other agencies, but certainly we're not quite as pinpoint focused as other agencies that are providing some of these training opportunities. So,
well, maybe this will be the start of it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Start by highlighting their careers and really try to share some of that wisdom that they've got after 20, 30 years of experience.
For sure.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks
And
for having me.
look forward to checking in with you and maybe a few months down the road, see how things are going.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Good to talk to you again.
Yep, you too.
All right.
All right, so that was Pat over in Las Vegas. Really good leader that I love that, not only does he talk about servant's heart, here I am serving the community, but really bringing that home, getting the input of his community, so understanding how important it is to give them a voice that's regularly exposed to what they do, how they do it, why they do it, and getting feedback from them real time. I think that's important. A lot of times, it's like anything else in life. We talk about doing things. We claim that it's why we do what we do, but then in practice, it's a little bit, can be challenging to include your community in your decision-making. But Pat just had a great focus on involving them, having these community outreaches, having these surveys, having these polls, really making them a part of the process. Getting these stakeholders, as many of them are called, involved in this whole process of what are we doing, how are we doing, what can we improve upon. So I think that's really important, and I love the way Pat also believes in investing in his staff. Constantly training them, and then even himself. You got to start with the leader yourself. You got to train yourself up if you want other people to do the same. So appreciate you, Pat. Thank you for coming on. All right, as promised, we are working diligently behind the scenes to get this the Daily Parks and Rec show up and moving. We are working to also launch a second hour that's going to be focused on maintenance, facilities maintenance, anything to do with Parks and Rec, upkeep, facilities maintenance, that kind of stuff. So give us 20, 30 episodes to really find our bearing on that. We have a lot of interest. A lot of people. This is probably the most requested thing to create content around. So much though, I really can't just do one show on it because it's literally half the staff, maybe a third of the entire staff is dedicated to keeping these facilities running. And I really just want to kind of highlight the scope and the scale of this real estate portfolio under the management of the Park Systems of America and the army behind them, keeping them going, keeping them fixed, fixing all the breaks that happen constantly, whether it's a light that went out or plumbing issue or a swing set broke or the grass is never stopping to growing and the weeds are always coming in, painting fields, preparing so that when you show up with your grandkid to do a little baseball game, everything's just looks good. And a lot of times we don't stop to think about how hard these people in facilities maintenance are working, and then what is their skill set? Is this just simply somebody picking up trash? But many times, and the trash is always coming. It's always these parks are constantly being, paper cups and cans and soda bottles and stuff like that everywhere. But then the grass is always growing. The swing sets are always breaking. There's always something to fix, and we need them to help keep our facilities inside of our communities and our park systems working smoothly. And then of course, there's a whole construction side of this equation. A lot of private contractors coming and doing that kind of stuff, though. But anyway, we'll find our bearings around this. I promise you, this is something that we've got a lot of stuff in the works around. So if you're listening to this, you're a Parks and Rec director, you have somebody, superintendent, or head electrician, head plumber, head grass keeper, somebody that's just doing a really good job, maybe lots of experience that they'd like to share, lots of wisdom they'd like to share, please hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm starting to put together this show, and just like we are with the superintendents, directors, assistant directors on our noon show, we're going to do the same thing, kind of focus more park facilities maintenance for the 11 o'clock Eastern show, just right before this one. So it'll kind of end up being a 2-hour show. Anyway, appreciate all the support. Please consider supporting our channel by either one of three ways. You can either have us work with you on managing your social media. That's something that we have all the skills and software and stuff to do because we're building a company here. So that was the first people I had to hire to bring onto the team. So if you need help managing your social media for your city, getting the word out, managing your social media pages, driving engagement, that kind of stuff, this is what we can do for you. And in that way, all the proceeds from that will go back into just building this media network for Parks and Recreation. If you also have any little videos you'd like us to make to promote a special event, that's another thing that we can do. This is all helping to kind of drive some type of funding towards the Daily Parks and Rec Show. And of course, my background is in manufacturing LED lights. That's one right there. It's just a workhorse light that's designed to go in these small parks. It's a direct replacement. So you take your old fixture down, you put this fixture up, and now we are partnering, coming together with a good partnership for a company called Outdoor Link, and they're able to switch these lights off and on from a cell phone, from a very simple app. They have 24/7 support. And so if you've ever been called out of bed because the lights were left on, this company can literally save you millions of dollars. And I say that because they have saved some of these larger park systems they're a part of millions of dollars in electric bill. So these systems really do pay for themselves. But it's also a man-hour thing. When you're having to take men and their trucks and drive out to hit a disconnect, hit a breaker off, when you can just literally open up your phone, toggle it off, the lights go off. That's modern technology. This is where we are today. This technology has become so efficient, so affordable. Their system is literally under $1,000 for an entire 4 baseball field. They can turn any baseball field, no matter how remote. You don't need Wi-Fi. You don't need anything. It comes with its own internet connection, and they can flip these things off and on. So really special. And I have worked with these people, and this system has been put on top of my lights for many, many years. So they are a battle-tested company that has over 80,000 of these units deployed nationwide. So I really would like them to succeed. And the fact that they're helping to support the channel is even a bonus. Really good people up in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you, DJ, Tasha, Dave. Look for them in their booth at nearly every convention they attend, which is where I met them. But the quality of their work preceded them. I already knew about this company before, and I would often send people their way before I even knew the company as well as I do now. So those are ways that you can support the channel. Appreciate all the support you can give it. The more support we get, the bigger we can grow this thing. I really would like to get a film crew, so that I can go to some of these events with professional videographers, professional photographers, capture Parks and Rec and the associations and the events that they host. But that's all going to take funding. So as we get more funding from your support of maybe moving some of your buying habits to either work with us in your social media, managing your social media, potentially buying an LED light from us, or working with Outdoor Link, all that drives revenue back to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Really appreciate that. Any help y'all can give us, we will certainly put to good use to being the voice, to giving this community a platform to speak on, and to really help raise awareness of the great work that this industry is doing. I am Craig LeBlanc, the doorman. Thank you so much for attending today, and we will be here tomorrow, same time, for the rest of the week, 12 noon Eastern. Craig LeBlanc again with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.